Okay, let's have a look at the past tense in French, the passé composé, which is the perfect tense. We are focusing here on avoir and using past participle mainly on ER verbs. So it's the basics, the first lesson on this. What's the past tense? The past tense allows us to talk about the things that have happened in the past, things that we have done and that are finished. So it's perfect already. That means it's not going on anymore. I have played tennis is a good example of that. Now in English you can see I play tennis is the present tense. Je joue au tennis in French. Je joue is the verb here. I have played tennis in English has got two bits of the verb. I have and I played. In French it's going to be a bit like that. Let's have a look at it. So the French sentence is j'ai joué au tennis. Now j'ai joué literally means I have. And this bit comes from to play, from jouer, and with the accent at the end is basically the equivalent of played tennis. Now in the passé composé you always need it like this, even though in English you sometimes say I played or I have played. In French just focus on this with the two bits for now. So let's have a look how this works. What bits make up the present tense? It depends a little bit who you ask. Some people say it's got 3 bits to it, 1, 2, 3. Some people focus on these 2 down here because they are the most important. The verb now consists of 2 bits. The first one is here, a. It's called an auxiliary verb because it helps us make the overall verb, but it does not tell us the whole story, so it cannot stand by itself. We need to make sure that we use avoir in this case. There are some other ones I come to later that use être, but for now it's avoir. We need to use the form of avoir that matches who we're talking about. So we have got the person we are talking about over here. Of course, it may be a name, it may be something else, it may be a description. But we can make sure, if we can make sure that we get the right form of avoir, then we are off to a really good start because we'll have the first and the second bit right. This third bit here is the past participle. Again, it cannot stand by itself. It is part of the verb. Here you can see it's got the accent aigu at the end, the E with the upward accent on it. That is often the case for the ER verbs, but it doesn't necessarily apply to the other verbs. So that can be a bridge to help you remember it, but don't rely on it exclusively. So let's have a look. How do we know which form of avoir to use? Well, hopefully you know how to suss out the person. Remember, if it's a name you're talking about, maybe a third person, so you may have to use this one. Here are the forms of avoir, which you should really know by heart. First person singular, for example, is I. So that would be je, j'ai. Normally it's je, but I put an apostrophe there because it's followed by a vowel sound. J'ai. Tu as, il a, nous avons, vous avez, ils ont. Make sure you know these by heart. You may want to pause here and write them down or learn them by heart right now, but you will need these over and over again. So that gives us the person we're talking about and the auxiliary. How do you know what the past participle is going to be? Now that can be a bit tricky, but for the ER verbs we're going to start with in this little clip, it's relatively straightforward. Let's have a look. Start with the infinitive. So in this case, to play is jouer, with the ER at the end. That's a really good way of actually spotting that it's that's an infinitive. If we take this off, the ER, that gives us joue, the rest is gone. This bit here is actually called the stem of the verb. So when you hear that or you read it in your grammar book, that's what they're talking about, the stem. Then you stick on the past ending. In this case we want past, so we need to make sure we put this on. This ending is common for the ER verbs, yeah, so it's the accent and also lifts the pronunciation. The tricky bit here, you need to cope with it. Listen to this. Infinitive, pronounced jouer. The past participle down here, pronounced jouer. They sound the same, but they are different, so please don't mix them up. Coming back to our little overview slide, we now know how to do this. We now know how to get the right form of the auxiliary. We now know how to make sure we can suss out what the ER past participles are. So, if we, for example, want to say, I played football, we could say, j'ai joué au foot. Same as the example before, but now I'm playing football rather than tennis. If I wanted to say, I ate chocolate. To eat is manger. Take the ER off, put the E with the accent on. J'ai mangé. What have I eaten? Du chocolat. Why not? J'ai mangé du chocolat. That's how that works. Now with the ER verbs, that's all we need to talk about right now. There are other verbs, but I'll cover them later.